This is Jim Stewart, I'm Rick Collins, and this is Off the Bench. This weekend was the wackiest NFL weekend I can remember.
Not just with the NFL, but with college, but just focusing on the NFL right now, you could not tell me who was going to win, and you would probably have a 60% chance of not being right.
I would have lost so much money had I gambled on any of the games.
I believe you dropped a tweet on that. Thank goodness I don't bet because I would have lost my house.
Yes, I would have lost but my wife would have divorced me. I would have ended up on the street. I've been living in the office here.
And to be honest, as much as it didn't help the fantasy football players and the bettors, I honestly think a weekend like that is good.
Really good for the NFL because we were talking about it. Before this weekend, the NFL was really struggling for viewership, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But I think the main reason that we wanted to explore today is the entertainment value of the games themselves. We were seeing blowouts. We were seeing teams that are just absolutely terrible to begin the season, and surprise teams doing really well, but not doing really well by entertaining us, basically because there are teams that are just terrible.
And there is something to be said of terrible teams coming in and almost beating good teams or making it a very close match, because that's where you're like, what is going on?
Yes, and that's why this weekend was so much fun. And it started off with the worst game of the weekend in terms of competitiveness, but it started the wackiness right off the bat.
And the other one it went to the other game that we talked about usually being horrible, which is the London game.
Yeah.
The Jaguars went bonkers.
Yeah.
Blake Bortles his head was on a pike. It was ready to kill him, and he would be out of town.
Yes.
And he came out and threw more touchdowns than he has in his career.
He threw more touchdowns than he had in the first 2 weekends combined.
Yes, it was the greatest game he had so far, and it was against a pretty good defense, or at least what we thought was pretty good.
Exactly. I had them as one of my defenses on my fantasy football team. That did not go well.
No, I honestly believe that this is making us rethink the whole season. Now, it has to happen over more than one week.
Yeah, absolutely. It's only 3 weekends in.
Yeah, but it can't just happen 1 week that these teams have very impressive games. They've got to do it more than 1 week, but there are a lot of really head-scratching, I thought that team was supposed to be horrible games, and maybe it was just a fluke and 2 or 3 or 4 teams had really good games that shouldn't have had really good games, but that normally doesn't happen.
Well, also, you think about, we're in the 3rd week of the season. The quarterbacks are starting to get more comfortable as the season goes along. Offenses are going to get better, hopefully, as the season goes along. And this is kind of the pickup of that. And we saw what the Bears did at Pittsburgh, and the Bears' offense was non-existent the first 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, they come out and they play decently. They were able to run the ball against Pittsburgh, who is notoriously difficult to run the ball against. Maybe Pittsburgh's a little bit overrated, but I think it's more of, hey, these teams aren't necessarily as bad as we thought they were.
On the Pittsburgh side, whether they are actually old or just play old, that team feels aged. It is not the Pittsburgh Steelers that we've known for the last 15 years. Yeah. The ones that went to Super Bowls, the one that Ben has been used to it used to be Baltimore and the Steelers would face up and everybody would be like, whoever plays them the next week has a good shot of winning.
A grudge match. Yeah, they're going to beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah, and then the next week, whoever was playing them had a free shot on a good game because they were so beat up. These teams are not the same anymore, and it is proven by the Bears coming in and throttling them, and even if it's a close game, if a team is not supposed to beat you and they are even close to beating you, it's a throttle. Yeah. I mean, it's a blowout. It's an upset.
Well, another one we saw was the Patriots almost losing to the Texans, and with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, nobody really expected the Texans' offense to really look good until he was more comfortable in the offense. Maybe halfway through the season, when the teams they faced aren't quite as difficult, they put the scare in New England. New England had to win on a last-second touchdown. Otherwise, Houston was walking off that field with a win against what a lot of people assumed was the best team in the NFL.
The problem that the Patriots have is that for the last couple of years, the Texans, being horrible against everyone else, has the Patriots' number. They are not scared of them. Yeah. They've got a very fast, very physical front four and and a decent inside linebacker. And with that, for some reason, they give Tom Brady fits.
Yeah.
Their teams just don't match up well. The Patriots' game plan beats everybody else, but for some reason, they struggle against the Texans.
Yeah, and I was surprised to see that the Texans were able to put up so many points. Now, a team that I was really surprised to put up points was the Jets, beating the Miami Dolphins. Now, you know Jay Cutler coming in, he's going to be a little bit rusty, and the Dolphins, man, they didn't have a ton going for them at the beginning of the season, especially with injuries. The Jets, though, looked horrible to begin the season. Nobody expected them. Everybody even said
they gave away all their
tank.
good players.
Yeah, that they were tanking. They were giving away their best players. They were going to tank this season to get a #1 pick in the draft, go for Sam Darnold or whoever else, or Baker Mayfield, or whoever they were going to go for. And for them to go out and beat Miami was another surprise this weekend, which nobody saw coming.
I, as well as a lot of people on our Twitter page, believe that Jay Cutler is stealing from the Miami Dolphins. That you should not get blown out. When you're a top, he's been touted as being one of the top quarterbacks in the last 10 years. Whether he played to that level or not, he was always considered to have the talent, right?
Yeah.
He did decently well in the first 2 games, and for the fact that he dropped off like this, they have a good defense, they have one of the best running games. It was all on him this last weekend.
Yeah, but you've got to expect a guy who's coming out of the booth, basically, to start for your team, especially the Dolphins. He doesn't have really nearly enough experience in the offense. I mean, there's some offensive connections there, but he didn't have the time in the preseason to get ready for this. I think it's going to take him another couple of weeks before he gets comfortable with the receivers and the offense, and I think they'll be fine. I still expect them to be around 500. He's not a savior for that team by any means.
And the sad part is fans don't like him.
Yeah.
And he's never going to get a fair shot.
No, especially in Miami.
Like
In Miami, if the fans don't like you, they just don't show up for the games, which is kind of sad.
Like Charger fans in LA.
I know, but that is a Florida deal. Okay, Detroit. How many times can the Lions get robbed by the NFL, by the officiating crews, before people in Detroit just go insane?
Officiating has gotten to the point where they either do their job or they completely throw the game. They get whistle happy, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be like once or twice a year that a team in any division gets robbed by the officials. And it seems to be to the point now where you hear it all the time now. They talk about the officials in pregame or during the game almost more than any individual player during the game. They talk about Ed Hockley. They talk about the officiating crews. They talk about the replay crews like they're players, like they're another team on the field. And that's not a good thing.
No.
The Zebras need to be the same as the owners.
In fact,
they need to be seen and not heard, and they need to officiate the game. But the game should not focus on the officials themselves.
And I think we'll get into that more later as we talk about the comparison between the NFL and college and why college right now during this year is far more entertaining than the NFL. Lastly, last couple of games. The Colts keeping the Browns winless. The state of Ohio right now is a disaster. They're 0-6 on the season.
Does FEMA need to go to Ohio? Is it
They're
a disaster
not doing
area?
well right now. And then Rodgers winning his first game in overtime. To me, I was surprised to hear that he had only won, this was his first win in an overtime game. Because it seems like he wins games at the last second all the time. How was this the first time in overtime that he's won?
This is the one thing that he and his predecessor do not match up on. Brett won a lot of overtime games. Aaron does not. Aaron, he's either winning. He either wins
in regular time.
Yeah, or he loses. There is no overtime, and if they do go to overtime, there is a very good chance that he's going to lose. That's why it was so surprising. You this morning looked up and went, huh? What?
Yeah.
You almost put like
I couldn't believe it because he has won so many games at the last second, but to see that none of those games were in overtime is incredible. And I don't know if that's just random, that he's just never been to that many overtime games, or that overtime has just never worked out for him. Okay, finally, let's get to the last couple of games. In-division games for the Cowboys, the Eagles and the Giants. That was a fantastic game.
Yes.
Even though both teams kind of off and on the entire game, to see it come down to the field goal, and a 61-yard field goal at that, by a 22-year-old to win the game for Philadelphia, that was fun.
I think it's gotten to the point where we need to find entertainment where we can find it. And whether the two teams are bad, or whether it's a bad team playing a good team, or a good team playing a bad team, I think good games and close games and exciting games are what we need. I like the mix-up. I like the fact that they get on for a quarter and then they're off, and then people go, what the heck? And then they come on again, and then it comes down to the last second. You don't want to blow out. Those get boring, unless you're the team that's doing the blowing out the other team.
Careful there.
But the problem ends up being is that these games nowadays have been so lopsided that the entertainment value is waning, and this has just been a good jumpstart to coming back to normal football.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been, I mean, this weekend really has saved NFL entertainment value for me. But let's look at it from the college standpoint as well. We had some really good college games. TCU upsetting Oklahoma State. TCU, I think, after the SMU game, nobody really expected them to really do a whole lot, because SMU shouldn't be keeping it that close to TCU. Beating Oklahoma State, that was big. They're now in the top 10, TCU is. Oklahoma winning against Baylor, holding on to win against Baylor. Your boy Baker Mayfield putting up another big game, but their defense looks bad. If they give up that many points to Baylor, I don't know what they're going to do when they get TCU.
I think it was a bad matchup,
Oklahoma State could be. So that's a little bit scary. This is not entertaining. Alabama dominated Vanderbilt. I mean, Vanderbilt, they shouldn't even have shown up.
But that was our cinematographer's favorite game. It was very surprising. He likes
the blowout.
Yeah, he does like the blowouts,
but we don't. And that's why I think, okay, we had a little bit of a switch up this weekend where maybe the NFL was a little bit more entertaining than college. But honestly, in the last couple of years, it's college football. And I think we're going to have to go over this more later, because this is a huge topic.
This is going to bleed over into the next segment next.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No?
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
And we're back. We're gonna go back in, because we really wanted to do a little bit deeper dive on the college football games and why college football looks like it's a more entertaining product right now to the NFL.
Yeah, this year the NFL product has really tanked the first couple weeks. This last weekend, if they can continue having games like that, I think the NFL brand comes back, at least for the year. They've got problems not so much on the field as they do off the field and politically and all that different stuff that we're not going to go into, but it's all hurting the brand.
Yes.
If the other two problems are going on off the field and they had a really good product on the field, I don't think there'd be much of a hubbub about it. But now that the games have been so lopsided and horrible that everybody's had their focus on off the field issues. Where college, you don't have that stuff.
No.
You do not have any sort of off the field political issues other than the occasional kid getting into trouble, but they're kids. But college has really been exciting this year.
Yeah.
Teams that should have no business coming close or even winning are winning. And what it is it's unpredictable. The entertainment value of unpredictability is at its fullest right now in college football.
Yeah, and obviously we still have Clemson and Alabama at the top, but the rest of it seems like a toss-up. And I think that the playoff, the college playoff, is going to be huge for college football entertainment going forward, because if they decide to expand it to eight teams instead of just 4, that just makes it even crazier, because you could have a team that gets 2 or 3 losses will get in, and that might be a team like a TCU who nobody really expected to be good this year, could sneak in there if they're able to beat in Oklahoma later on in the season.
Blasphemous.
Beat Texas. Hey, that's my team. Absolutely, they should beat Texas, honestly, right now. And they could get in there. They could get in there alongside in Oklahoma.
TCU is the dark horse right now in the Big 12 and in college football.
College football, yeah.
You know, no one saw them coming, even though they have been good the last 5 or 6 years.
And their defense
under
is still
Patterson,
good, but they lost a lot of players. A lot of people have been down on Kenny Hill,
who has been a byproduct of Texas A&M. He went there, showed a flash, and you remember he was the quarterback that took over after Manziel.
Yeah.
And he had a game where he had 400 yards on the ground and in the air, and he had 4 touchdowns. And then he started having, it all went to his head, and he had off-field issues, and he got cut. And then TCU picked him up, and he's sort of rejuvenated his career when it comes to college football. And he's starting now to go into conversations of being a quarterback at the next level, but he's got a long way to go.
And then you've got Oklahoma here in the Big 12. Oklahoma here in the Big 12. Well, Oklahoma State really falling off. I mean,
we all thought that they were going to be the ones to knock Oklahoma off the crown.
They weren't. I don't know. And it definitely looks like TCU now. That was a pretty dominant, even though the score wasn't that significant, I think it was a pretty dominant victory for TCU over Oklahoma State.
It was all on the ground, too.
Yeah.
All on the ground. You know, Kenny Hill had threw 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and they had 3 touchdowns on the ground. And that has been the staple of TCU football. It's running the ball ever since LaDainian Tomlinson
running the ball
was there.
And defense.
It's running the ball and defense, and Patterson is living the tradition.
He's a great coach. So looking at Oklahoma, I think everybody expected Oklahoma would just destroy Baylor. Baylor has looked horrid so far this year, and for them to come out and put up, I believe it was 41 points on Oklahoma is a huge surprise. I'm not worried about the offense in Oklahoma. I'm worried about the defense. If they end up getting TCU on a bad Baker Mayfield night, TCU I think has a shot.
I think it was a matchup problem from the beginning. Oklahoma's defense is a bit of a speed defense. It's a tweener. It's going to do well against the big lumbering teams. You know, the Ohio State, the Alabamas, where they're trying to smash the ball with big players, because we've got big players too, as in Oklahoma. But when you go against someone like Baylor, who is basically the Big 12 the Big 12 equivalent of Oregon.
Yeah.
It's speed. They've got track runners running on the outsides. They've got basically high school sprinters at running back. They've got small, quick linebackers. Oklahoma's not built for that. And one thing Baylor can do is score in bunches. They've always been able to, and I think that was a staple game for them if they could have pulled it off.
Yeah, it would have been great for Baylor. Let's look at some of the other top teams real quick. Clemson, they got to win, but offensively, they can run the ball. There's no doubt about that, but can they pass the ball? I think there's concerns there.
There is concerns. They think that this new quarterback taking over is basically Deshaun Watson's replacement. They see a lot of Deshaun Watson in this new kid. The issue is he has no experience outside of being his backup. So they think he's a thickly built Lamar Jackson. He runs the ball really well, and he has a cannon for an arm. But we've seen those guys that are a dime a dozen, that you see these unbelievable athletes. Now, we need to start seeing how he does against stiff competition. Boston College is not stiff competition.
No, not right now.
They're not even ranked in the top 25.
No, not right now.
You know, they're 1 and 3 or 1 and 2. So they were 1 and 2 coming in. Now they're 1 and 3.
But let's look at overall college football. This year has been great for college football. It's not only entertaining, but I think there's another aspect to college football we haven't really looked at, and that is looking at the fact that you can watch college football all day on Saturday. The NFL, if you get an unwatchable game, you don't really have a whole lot of choices.
Oh yeah, there's some channel surfing ability when it's on Saturday with the college football
Man,
games.
I mean,
They're everywhere.
the games are seriously, they're everywhere. It's like every other channel
They're
has
even
a game on.
There seems to be channels on every games on every channel, even like the outdoor fishing channel. There's like some obscure football game from a small Division I school.
Yeah, and all the games are entertaining. One of the other aspects is just that the reason that they're more entertaining is because maybe the defenses aren't necessarily as skilled and experienced, and so you get to see a lot of big plays, which we really haven't seen a whole lot of big plays and amazing plays in the NFL yet this season.
I also think that you see a experience and talent level discrepancy in college football. You get like a Baker Mayfield, or you get a Sam Darnold, who
You
at
get
the
to
beginning
see
of the
that
years,
superstarness.
yeah, you get to see he is so much better than everybody around him because the talent is spread out over so many schools. Where in the NFL it's so compressed that talent discrepancy is not as wide. But Oklahoma, like for instance, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
He is so talented, but he plays against inferior athletes that he can run. He can run through defenses, over defense. He can throw over the top. He can touch, even though he's not good at read recognition.
Yeah.
He does his first read, and if that's not open, he takes off. In the NFL, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because all those defensive players are as talented and as fast as you. You've got some defensive linemen running 4.7s, 4.8s. That's not slow.
So college has always been the same product, in my opinion. What we're saying is that it's not that college football is catching up to the NFL. It's that the NFL is dropping off to the college football level.
Yes, and we've had this discussion before. It's not that the talent in the NFL isn't doing well. It's the CBAs and the new rules coming out. They're really drastically affecting these games. The league as a whole has become so offensively driven that if the offenses aren't clicking, there's no game.
Yeah.
The defenses can't do anything to there is no more Tampa Bays where they're scoring 5, 6, 7 touchdowns a year on the defensive side. Now, the CBA has really drastically changed offensive line play. And that is the reason why these offenses aren't taking off, is because the quarterbacks are under so much pressure so quickly.
Yeah, and we saw it last night with Derek Carr under pressure from the Washington Redskins defense. They were all over him.
Right now, in week 3 in the NFL, is about where the offensive lines are at the beginning of the preseason. Normally, in the past.
Right.
This is how much physical reps they've had leading into the preseason. Now, we've played basically 7 games, 4 preseason,
Right.
3 regular season, and now the offensive lines are starting
to click,
click because they didn't get any play.
And I think that's why we
in the
saw
offseason.
better play yesterday than we have in the last couple of weeks. Now, looking at tonight's game, the Cowboys' offensive line really, they've got to click tonight, because Ezekiel Elliott's performance last week was certainly associated with the fact that the offensive line was just not good. They weren't good enough.
And I also think that as much as the offensive line, and people would love to blame him, I think there is some problems in Jerry world when it comes to distractions. And Zeke does not look like a player who is motivated. We saw that
Not
in
yet.
the interception play last game.
Mm-hmm.
He does not look like he's, once he gets the ball in your hand, that's fine. Everybody's wanting to put all the effort in they can when they have the ball in their hand. But when they don't have the ball in their hand, that's when you start to see what kind of a player, how motivated, how committed you are to the season.
Well, they are going to have a tough matchup tonight, because they got the Arizona Cardinals defense, which is one of the top 5 in the NFL easily. Could be top 3, especially after what happened.
And they have been in the past.
What happened with Baltimore this
Yes.
weekend. The Arizona Cardinals are going to put pressure on Dak. They're going to stop the run. What is it going to take for the Cowboys to win this game?
Dak has got to start throwing the balls down the field. End of story. They've got to be less conservative in their play calling. It can't be bubble screens. It can't be short,
Dak
shallow
and Dez.
passes. Yes. It can't be Cole Beasley and Jason Witten catching 5 to 10 yard passes. It can't. He needs to start throwing 15, 20, 30 yards down the field. He's got to start doing that, because all they're going to do is every time he doesn't do it, they're going to get a little bit closer to the line, a little bit closer to the line.
Stack the box.
Yes, they'll stack the box because he can't make that throw, and Dez does not have the speed he used to have. He's physical, but they're going to put Peterson on him.
Yeah.
They'll put Patrick Peterson on him. It'll shut him down, and Williams isn't going to do anything. So what you really got to look at is Zeke is going to struggle, and it's up to Dak to now prove that he's the player that everybody has said he is.
I agree, but I also think that I think they do need to use the screen pass more. One of the reasons that I saw them failing in the first couple of weeks is allowing Zeke, not allowing Zeke much space with the ball in his hand. So they're giving him the ball
Maybe they
on
get
a
him
basic
in
run,
space?
get him in space. Get him the ball in space where he can make a move, get some yardage, get the defense on their heels, and then start running the ball in straight lines at them.
What doesn't make sense is all the talk all offseason was we're going to get Zeke into space. We're going to start implementing him in the passing game. We haven't seen it. They also said Ryan Switzer was going to be a huge part of the offense. Hasn't seen it. If they want to, let's say they do go. We're not a down the field passing team. We're a smaller, sort of like the Patriots, where we work the smaller, shorter routes and get a lot of yards after the catch, and then blow the top off on a play action pass or something. They've got to get the players in that are able to do it. Dez is not one of them. Unless he's going to run cross and slants, I don't think he's going to help. They need to get the smaller, quicker guys in that are going to be able to outmaneuver the defense and get open. And they haven't done it so far.
But they don't have that down the field threat without Dez. If Dez is not able to get down the field and get separation, they're going to struggle throwing the ball down the field because, just like you said, the rest of the guys on the team are not down the field targets. They're the 5 to 15-yard guys. Jason Witten is their down the field target right now.
And Jason Witten's not a down the field
target.
Because he's not
Dez
Rob Gronkowski. He's never been Rob Gronkowski.
No.
A lot of his big plays in his career was his physicality. Some guy'd come hit him, bounce off, and he'd run another 20, 30, 40 yards. He is not a down the field threat. I don't think he's ever been a down the field threat.
So they've got to figure out ways to get Dez open. If they have to put him in motion to get him open, if they have to...
They have not shown creativity on this offense.
No, they haven't.
That's the problem.
Yes.
And isn't Jason Garrett supposed to be an offensive coordinator? Isn't he
supposed to be a guru?
Yes, he's supposed to be a guru. You remember? He was the one running the offense when Tony Romo had his best years. But we have not seen any of this creative gameplay. I think I read somewhere that Tom Brady had an interview, and they asked him what does this playbook look like for the Patriots. He said there's 1,000 plays in our playbook.
Well, and part of it could be that Jason doesn't want to give Dak too much. But
it's
honestly,
his second year.
At this point, yeah, exactly. At this point, they've got to. They don't have much of a choice because right now it looks like defenses know exactly what they're going to run and exactly how to stop them.
Either that or he needs to use his legs more. And you know this. I hate quarterbacks that just like to run. Yeah. But if he is going to not be able to throw the ball down the field, he needs to run and start making these defenses think twice about rushing him.
And maybe put him in a bootleg.
Yes, bootleg him a lot, get him into space, make it so that the offensive line's moving or trapping the defensive line into a corner and start hitting these guys downfield.
And we're talking about entertainment. Next, we're going to go into a sport that's actually specifically entertaining. It really isn't athletic at all, and that's eSports. Next.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? But now she's like, You aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
And we're back. We were just talking about the Cowboys Monday Night Football preview and how entertaining college football is compared to the NFL. Now we're talking about a sport that's based entirely on entertainment. In fact, it's, I don't even know if you would call these guys athletes. In fact, I might call them nerds.
Nerds in basements. But can you really consider people getting paid millions of dollars nerds? Maybe they're rich nerds.
Yeah, it's actually pretty insane how much money they start getting paid. Looking at it, 4 or 5 years ago, this didn't even really exist. They had these tournaments of what now they're calling eSports, which is video gaming, right? These huge tournaments, and they would have them at stadiums and have a ton of people watching them. But, they're making a couple $1,000s here and there. Dude, some of these payouts, each of the individual players in these tournaments are giving over $1 million for winning.
And it's really changed because it used to be these, we, as in people that are 30 and older, used to go and connect Xboxes together. We used to do PlayStations, and we'd play local network tournaments.
Yeah.
Now, it's not so much Xboxes and video games anymore, it's computer gaming. You start getting Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Destiny, you get Halo, and there's so many new ones, but that's based on the
World
ones
of Warcraft,
World
too.
of Warcraft, Dota, all these weird, obscure games that I've just heard of recently.
Overwatch, which is now the one, this thing is huge. Guys just got over $1 million a piece. A team of 5 players got $1 million a piece from winning a Overwatch tournament, which I've never even played this game. I've never seen it played. I don't know anything about it other than it's online player versus player. That's it.
And I don't know, honestly, I don't know if this is good or bad. Because if you were a kid, let's say you were 10,
man.
and someone told you
This is
you
like
could
a
make
dream come true.
That you could make millions of dollars playing video games, would you have ever left the house?
No.
No, that is the kid's dream. So what it is it might encourage
Except my
kids.
parents would kick me out of the house.
So, and mine too. But in today's world, they don't. In today's world, you do not see kids playing outside anymore. You don't see, they're all indoors or they're out playing.
But that's the
team
thing
sports.
is the entertainment, when the internet came out, okay, yeah, you can get on the internet and you can talk to people and you
Chat rooms.
Yeah, exactly. You can
Where
look
predators
up stuff. But nowadays you get on and you can get on with your cell phone, right? You can get on, and what's become huge in the last couple of years is mobile gaming, and that's a huge part of the reason that we're seeing gaming as what they're calling eSports, and that is just
electronic sports.
Being able to have games at your fingertips all day long.
The interesting part is, yes, they might not have physical talent as in throwing a ball or running fast. But if you ever watch
those guys'
fingers are like blurs. Their eye-hand coordination is incredible.
So does it make them good at typing?
Something that's actually going to make them money in
right,
their lives?
Well,
yes, no, I have no
I don't know
idea.
these guys. I don't think they're ever going to go get a real job.
No.
You get $1 million from a tournament by winning it.
It's not that. It's the encouragement of kids that aren't making millions to say, I can do that, when they really have no chance.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that are making millions of dollars
it's
are
like
probably
the NFL, right?
Are probably like 0.5%
of the population.
Of the population of gamers.
Yeah.
And I have had friends in the past that do this sort of gaming now, and they spend 4 or 5 hours a day. They come home from work, get on the computer, and that's all they do. And there's got to be, just like sports, I would love to start seeing the science behind it. What kind of damage is it going to do to your eyes? What kind of damage is it going to do to your hands? The amount of reps that your fingers are doing.
The arthritis in your fingers and hands.
There are kids now that are in their early 20s that have arthritis in their hands because of the amount of repetitions they're doing. They have to have. They have to
wear gloves or something.
They have to have a surgery into their
wow.
wrists, and it's bad. And it's just like anything else. Your body has a certain amount of repetitions for your joints to be able to handle before they start breaking down. That's why you see athletes when they get older and you see they don't walk very well. They have to get their knees replaced because they have only a certain amount of repetitions. And the amount of repetitions running is totally different the amount of repetitions you have with your fingers. You probably do tens of thousands of repetitions every day if you're spending 4 or 5 hours online.
One of the reasons we wanted to talk about this today is that Dallas is just a local billionaire just invested millions of dollars into a local Overwatch team. Overwatch being one of these video games that you play online, and these are the tournaments that are making millions of dollars. And this team, they're getting money from advertisers, and they're getting investments from
They're starting on getting on an ESPN to Ocho. And
it's
some
unbelievable.
Of these places. Yes.
Yeah, we're scrambling around on or searching around on sports channels, and middle of the day on Saturday or Sunday,
Video games.
you're seeing video games.
And if you really see it, it's a cultural change. This eSports started in Japan and China and Hong Kong.
In the mid-2000s.
Yes, in the mid-2000s, and it's really big over there now. I mean, they pack stadiums over there.
Yeah.
It is in the same category as cosplay.
Yes.
Came from Japan.
Right.
And now it's getting really big over here. It's just coming across, and it is changing the way that people look at sports, because now kids that really, I'll put it this way, physical sports like football, baseball, basketball, swimming, that you either have it or you don't. There is no kid who is slow who says, I'll work really hard and I can run a 4.3.
Right.
That's not going to happen. But there are kids that go, I am not very athletic, but you can learn to play.
Right.
You can get quicker with your hands. You might not get to the point where you're a pro, but you can get pretty darn close where you can go online and be competitive.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a lot of skill in the sense of athletic ability.
Okay, so kids are staying inside. They're playing eSports. They're on their computers. They're on their tablets. They're on their phones all day long. Are we talking about a generation of laziness?
I think probably physically, yes. And as much as we don't like to say it, even though they're doing things that maybe won't help them in the future, like learning how to balance their checkbook or do business or do whatever, this is actually mental work.
Yeah.
It might not be in the ways that we're used to, but people are using their minds to do this. And I really think that it's going to affect the way, in a positive and negative way, it's going to affect the way people, for the rest of at least our lives, look at what kids are going to be doing. We've seen in the last couple of years, parents are now handing their kids electronic devices as basically electronic parents.
Yeah.
They go, I don't want to deal with my kids right now, here's a tablet.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with my kids right now, here's this. Where it used to be, the parents would go, get the heck out of the house.
Yeah.
Go do something. Which, there
Go
were positives
outside.
and negatives to that. All of the
Are we
positives.
going to end up with a bunch of lazy albinos, is what I'm trying to say?
Lazy, I have no idea. They're going to be pale, that's for sure.
Well, okay, so looking at the revenue side of this, can it succeed? Can it move forward? Because when you talk about the NFL and college football and the NBA, they're making a ton of money when you go to the stadium. You spend money on parking, you spend money on the tickets, you spend money on concessions.
I think it's different. I don't think, football, you're not going to, as a fan, you're not going to go and buy a complete football helmet and all that to play in.
Right.
Because you're not. In these, I think there's a ton of sponsorship opportunities.
Right.
The league itself, as a whole, eSports, is worth over $1 billion.
Yeah.
And what is happening is these players are now going, oh, he's using the newest keyboard, he's using the newest whatever, and it's a $50 or $100 keyboard, and they'll go use it. They'll go and their fans, like all of the people who watch, can afford
the fastest
and
guy
use it.
must be using the fastest controller.
Yes, it's in that sort of
But
category.
also the games themselves, if you think about the gaming community, they're trying to figure out ways, because the discs are disappearing. You're not going to the store and buying the discs anymore. My understanding is most of these kids are just downloading the games directly to their system. So you're not paying for the disc. So
you're not going outside. You're not interacting with people. That's going to be the biggest problem that these things are going to cause with the youth that are using it, or the people who are using it. Your personal skills are going to go out the window, not through the roof, but out the window.
Right.
People are not going to be socially inclined to be able to interact at all with each other.
But I think society and the way we connect socially is changing as well. If you look at how these kids are connecting, it's online. Online services seems like about the only way that they could keep revenue is sponsorships, and that's through the video game companies and through services that provide these online experiences for these players. Otherwise,
There's a lot of money to be made.
because I'd be surprised they've said they're selling out some of these teams. That's surprising to me because my understanding is most of the people that watch these games or play in these games, they're doing it via online. They're not actually going out to stadiums, buying a ticket, buying parking, paying for concessions. They're doing it from the comfort of their own home where there's no revenue to be made by the esports community.
And you know what? That's going to have to be a topic for another day. We could go on forever about this. There's ramifications across the board, and we'll do that next time.
Well, we got to get exercise.
Yeah, next time.